Hi everyone, my name is Maddie, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this video where I'm going to be telling you about all of the 2021 LGBT releases that I am really excited for. So over the last, who knows how long, but realistically at least a few months, I have been trying to keep track of all of the 2021 LGBT releases that are coming out and looking into all of them and seeing which ones I'm interested in, and I am 100% certain I have missed so many, and there'll be so many more announced that haven't been announced yet, or ones I've just not heard of. Like, I tried to keep up on it on GOODREADS and Twitter and also BookTube and all of that, but it's very, very difficult because obviously there are so many amazing books being released all the time. But nonetheless, I have put together a list of sort of all of the ones I'm most excited for and most interested in. It's a lot of YA contemporary, there's quite a lot of fantasy, whole variety of things, and I have ended up with 53 books, and that was at the point where I couldn't cut it down any further. And this is just the LGBT releases, let alone every other 2021 book release that I'm excited for. But although I can absolutely guarantee I will not read every single one of these in 2021, I can't afford to buy this many books, let alone read this many books. So I won't be reading all of these. I do actually have a video that will be coming out next week of the books I'm most keen to read in 2021, which will be a mixture of books I already own and books being released in 2021. And so a selection of the books from this list will be in that video, and those are very much the ones I'll be trying to read in the year and therefore will probably be talking about on my channel. But I thought I may as well give you kind of a really long list of amazing LGBT or amazing looking LGBT books coming out in 2021, so that hopefully you can find a lot for yourself if your tastes don't exactly line up for me, or if there's just one which sounds really interesting to you. So I am going to go through these in order of publication. I think I have used the US dates for publication, as in almost all cases the US date is earlier, often only by a day or two, but it is normally earlier than the UK one, and so for consistency I am going to use the US dates. And we're pretty much just going to get straight into it. As I said, I'm going to go through chronologically. I will try to let you know what rep is in which book. Obviously, just from a synopsis, it's not always possible to tell exactly what rep or if they're all own voices. I will do my best where I know, but I do also want to apologise in advance. A lot of this video will be reading synopses off GOODREADS, or at least summarising them, because however hard I might try, I cannot memorise the synopsis for 53 different books, none of which I have read. And I will have every single book listed below. I probably won't link them all because links for 53 books would probably put me over the character limit for a description, but I will have the titles and authors listed for all of them, so if any pique your interest, you can look them up, and they will be listed in the order that I talk about them. So it should be relatively easy to find these books if you want to find out more about them, or just add them to your shopping basket or GOODREADS want to read list, whatever you're feeling like. I will also have linked in the description a link to a GOODREADS shelf which I am creating, which will list all of these books. So if there's any you can't find, they will be on that list, check there. Final things before we get started though is number one, these are the release dates as I have found them at this point. Especially in the last few months, release dates have been changing quite regularly. I am trying to keep up to date with them. These are the most recent versions. I checked every single one of these this morning, but there is always a chance these release dates may change at some point. If they do, sorry, not a lot I can do about that. And secondly, obviously the majority of the books I'll be talking about are releasing in the first half of 2021, simply because not all of the books released in the second half are A, announced yet, and B, being hyped yet, so I don't know about them. So I may well do a extra video of this kind of halfway through 2021 talking about the second half of the year, though I do already have a couple I'm very much anticipating in the second half. This is very much focused up to June, with a few extras for the last few months of the year. I will also be putting on the screen the release date, both UK and US if they're different. If I just put one up, then it means that they're the same in both countries. And the covers, again, I'll put up both US and UK if they're significantly different. If not, we'll just put up one. I will just say I'm not going to be talking in great detail or great length about any of these books pretty much, because obviously to get through 53 books without this video being 3 hours long, I'm going to keep it pretty brief. This is more to give you a list that if you want some of these books or want to look into some of these books more, you've got a good starting point, you know what books are coming out. This is more of a resource than like an explanation of all of these books in great detail. And I will also have this video chaptered by release month, but as I've got 53 books to talk about, let's get straight into it. Okay, so the first book we're going to be talking about is Be Dazzled by Ryan Lasala. Ryan Lasala is the author of Reverie, which is his debut, which came out earlier this year, which was a really good fun LGBT contemporary story. This is another LGBT contemporary story, but just to give you the one-line sort of tagline from Goodreads, you're going to be seeing my phone a lot in this video. It is Project Runway goes to Comic-Con in an epic queer love story about creativity, passion, and finding the courage to be your most authentic self. Which honestly, I don't know what else anyone needs to know. This sounds amazing. You can see just from the cover that there's sequins, it's going to be crafty. I am here for this. It sounds like such a phenomenal book. So this book does follow Raffi, who loves sort of creating clothes and sequins and bedazzling and all of these beautiful things, and just loves it. It's his passion, and is determined to make a big comeback and make a big splash at a local Comic-Con. But the thing he's sort of battling with is a recent breakup with his ex-boyfriend, where Raffi was very set on like perfection and his ex-boyfriend had insecurities and it just didn't go together. But they end up getting paired together to have to work on this big project that Raffi is working on to make a splash. So it sounds interesting, sounds like possibly a kind of second chance slash reconciliation romance, which I'm here for. Male rep, as far as I know, and definitely own voices. So that's the first book, and that is releasing on the 5th of January. Next up, also releasing on the 5th of January, is Persephone Station by Stina Leicht, which is a sapphic sort of sci-fi space opera, which sounds amazing. I don't know a huge amount about it, and I have just read through the synopsis, but honestly, not 100% sure I follow it, as I don't want to read in too much detail and end up like knowing too much before reading it. But it sounds like sort of someone who's fallen from grace and trying to regain honor, and these two women that have to work together and it follows these two women, Rosie and Angel, I think, who are like carrying out almost like mercenary jobs, and it just sounds really interesting and really unlike anything I've ever read, if I'm honest. I don't read a huge amount of sci-fi or space opera. I don't think I've ever read female-female or sapphic sci-fi space opera, which I am here for. And also the cover is stunning and so interesting. Next up, releasing on the 12th of January in the US, however the 12th of February in the UK, is Across Green Grass Fields by Seanan McGuire. For anyone who doesn't know, Seanan McGuire is the author of the Every Heart a Doorway series, and this is actually the 6th installment in this series. It is a series of novellas, so all of the books are around 200 pages. They're very, very short, but they have very clearly said that this book would be a really good jumping on point. If you haven't read any of the first 5, you could start at book 6 and then go back and read the other 5. As like many of the other books, it is very much its own individual story. It doesn't rely on what we have already learned in the first 5 books. So just keep that in mind if you are interested in this one. So this book is following Reagan, who, like in all of the other Wayward Children books, finds a doorway that just says "be sure" and goes through it, and she ends up in a world of mythical equine, so kelpies and centaurs and things like that. But I get the impression from what Seanan McGuire has said that this is going to be a lot darker than it seems. But I am so here for it. I was a bit of a sort of horse girl growing up. I didn't ride much, but I loved horses. So I'm kind of here for a dark horse world. I don't know specifically what rep is in this. I will say there is a slight chance this is not LGBT. However, a vast majority of the characters we met in the first 5 books are LGBT, and there has definitely been a focus on a lot of the main characters being LGBT. And I do seem to remember it being mentioned that, again, in this book that is the case. I don't know if the rep will be specifically mentioned, but the series as a whole is definitely very LGBT, and I think there is a very, very high chance that the main character in this will yet again have some form of LGBT rep. Next up, also releasing on the 12th of January, is The Ruthless Lady's Guide to Wizardry by C.M. Waggoner. I almost forgot the name there. And this sounds amazing. This is a historical fantasy, as you can tell, about wizardry. I'm pretty sure it's sapphic. So this is following a sort of down on her luck woman, sort of thief, who applies to be a bodyguard for a very important woman. And I get the impression this is kind of like a bodyguard romance, which I am so here for, a bodyguard romance with magic. Again, I don't know a huge amount, but it sounds really good. I know a few people have been reading advanced copies and really, really enjoying it. So it definitely sounds like a fun, sapphic, historical fantasy bodyguard romance book. And honestly, just those buzzwords are enough to make me want to read it. And then the last January release I have to talk about is on the 19th of January, and that is Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Malinda Lo. This is a historical story. It's set in America in the 1950s in Chinatown in San Francisco, I think. And it follows this girl who is in love with another woman, and they go to a lesbian club, but obviously this is in a time and a place where it is not safe for 2 women to be in love. And I think this will just be a really, really interesting read. I don't think I've ever read a book set in 1950s America, or at least not specifically in Chinatown in San Francisco. And so it's going to be a really interesting one and very different from other things I've read. And we always like a good LGBT story. And however much I do really enjoy happy LGBT stories, I really appreciate reading LGBT stories that are set slightly in the past, not really far in the past, but just like in the last 60, 70 years, because obviously the world has changed a hell of a lot in those years, and so it's really interesting to kind of look back a bit and really get a feel for what people were going through back then, because even if there is oppression and things nowadays, it is a whole different world. So it's kind of good to see what things were like back then. Then moving into February, the first book is releasing on the 2nd of February in the US and the 4th of February in the UK, and that is Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. I'm so excited for this. This is a male sci-fi story, and it is being sort of comped as Red, White and Royal Blue meets Ancillary Justice. I've not read Ancillary Justice, but I know it's a sort of epic sci-fi by Anne Leckie that is very highly regarded. And I'm so here for a sci-fi being listed and comped to Red, White and Royal Blue. I know it's like a marriage betrothal and kind of not quite enemies to lovers, but that kind of thing, rivals to lovers. And I'm so excited. And I like the fact that people have said it's like very romance heavy in a sci-fi setting. So it's not just like the romance is pushed off to the side, like the romance is very much the focus of the book. And I am so here for this. So yeah, it sounds political, it sounds intriguing, it sounds just amazing. And I'm so unbelievably excited to get to this one. Next up, also releasing on the 2nd of February, is Yesterday's History by Kosoko Jackson. This sounds really interesting. This is a contemporary story, but it is also slightly set in the past. It follows someone in modern day, but then one day suddenly wakes up in 1969, and it follows a male main character, and when he goes back in time unexpectedly, I think he falls for someone back there. I think it's almost like a love triangle. He's trying to decide between these two guys, and then is learning the consequences of time travel as well. It just sounds really interesting, and I love a contemporary story with a really small, like fantastical or sci-fi-ish twist, like time travel. I think it just adds a really interesting thing. It's obviously not necessary at all. You can create drama, you can create tension without anything fantastical, but it just adds this little edge which can make it really, really interesting. Next up is As Far As You'll Take Me by Phil Stamper. This is releasing on the 9th of February in the US and the 4th of March in the UK, so a little bit different there. And this sounds so good. Phil Stamper is the author of The Gravity of Us, which was his debut, which came out this year. I personally really, really enjoyed it. It was a sweet male-male own voices romance, and this is another own voices male-male YA contemporary story. It sounds amazing. It follows this boy who ends up traveling from the US to London to take part in like an orchestral conservatoire, I think. It sounds like a really fun story. I've just looked a bit more into the synopsis, and basically the main character Marty is from a very conservative area in the US, and so his parents disapprove from being gay, and so him doing the summer program in London is kind of his plan of getting out. He hasn't booked a return ticket. His plan is to get a job when he's there and stay put. It sounds amazing. I really enjoyed how fun the first Phil Stamper book I read was. I thought it was a really interesting take and really easy, quick read. So excited for this. However, I don't know what edition to get because I'm obsessed with both the US and the UK covers in really different ways. So I don't know which one to get at all. Next up, releasing on the 23rd of February or the 25th in the UK, is A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth. This is one of my most anticipated releases of 2021. I know it follows 4 queer teens. I know it's got like an almost underground heist kind of vibe. There are fae, it's an urban fantasy. There's fae, there's like half fae, lots going on. Everyone is queer. I will actually just quickly scroll down on Goodreads. The author has put what everyone's identity is. So just going through the kind of main 5 characters, we have Arlo, who's apparently questioning and later to be confirmed pansexual. Nausicaa, who's lesbian, Vehan, who is bisexual, Aurelian, who's gay, and then Luck, who's gender fluid. I may have got all of those names wrong, but nonetheless, it sounds phenomenal. Yeah, half fae, royal fae family, people being exiled, dutiful princes, a brooding guardian. It sounds amazing, and I'm so excited to get to this one. And also, if you are also interested in this one, this is the March pick for the Face and Gaze book club, which is an LGBT sci-fi fantasy book club I do host with a couple other people. So feel free to join us in reading this in March. You can check the Twitter and the Discord in my description if you want to take part in that. But we are so excited for this book. So that is all the books for February, so we're going to move into March. And the first one I have to talk about is releasing on the 2nd of March, and that is Down Comes the Night by Allison Saft. I'm so excited for this. I know it's a really like dark romantic fantasy. I know it has a bisexual main character, but just to read like a one-liner for you, it just says here, Allison Saft's Down Come the Night is snow-drenched romantic fantasy that keeps you racing through the pages long into the night. Love makes monsters of all of us. That sounds so good. I don't know too much about the plot. It's one of those which I'm not looking into too closely, but you know, it's a dark gothic fantasy, it has lots of pining. I am so here for it. I am really, really excited for like a gothic fantasy, and it's being published by Wednesday Books, so I'm pretty sure it's YA. It sounds amazing. I'm very excited. It's a bi-character in fantasy, and therefore I want to read it. Next up, also releasing on the 2nd of March, is I Think I Love You by Auriane Desombre. This sounds so cute. This is a YA contemporary rom-com. It's sapphic. I don't know too much about it. I know it's like rivals and lovers and all of that, and it, honestly, just looking at the cover, you can look here, it looks so unbelievably sweet and wholesome, and I'm sure it also deals with some slightly harder topics. They often do. But nonetheless, this just looks like such an amazing book. And I've thought this so many times, but I'm just so glad that books like this are available to teens nowadays, and to some of us who are a bit older but still like reading them. But it makes me so happy that these books are out there. So just for like a one-line synopsis, this follows two main characters, one who is a hopeless romantic and the other who is much more sort of logical in their thinking. And they are rivals and nemesis competing for a spot at an LA film festival. But then I think a romance ensues, and I'm so here for it. I'm so excited. It looks cute, it looks fun. We love rivals to lovers. It's sapphic. We're ready. Okay, so next up, releasing on the 9th of March in the US and the 11th in the UK, is Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzalez. I am so excited for this. This is a YA contemporary. It has a bisexual main character. And very brief plot overview, this follows our main character, who I can't remember the name of, Darcy. It follows Darcy, who is running a questionably legal sex and relationship advice sort of service at her school by people posting anonymous letters through a certain locker, and like she gets them and replies to them, I think. But she gets caught doing this by a bratty, spoiled boy. So he hires her and kind of blackmails her into being hired to help him win his ex-girlfriend back. This sounds chaotic, this sounds funny. I am so here for it. I haven't read Sophie Gonzalez's debut, but nonetheless, this just sounds like a book I'm gonna absolutely adore. I wonder if there's gonna be almost a slight love triangle, because I think our main character is maybe slightly in love with her female best friend, and I have a sneaking suspicion might fall for the boy she is working to get his ex back for. So I'm very intrigued. So next up, releasing on, let me check my list, also the 9th of March, is Sweet and Bitter Magic by Adrienne Tooley. This sounds amazing. It's a debut fantasy, and it says, a witch cursed to never love meets a girl hiding her own dangerous magic, and the two strike a dangerous bargain to save their queendom. That sounds good. That sounds high stakes. I'm pretty sure it's a YA fantasy. It sounds so good. Okay, so I just read the synopsis and it sounds amazing. So it follows the main character Tasmin, who's been like exiled by the Coven of Witches and cursed to never be able to love, but she was a really, really powerful witch. And there's also Ren, who is what's called a source. So she's like a source of magic. And I think her father is dying from like a magical plague that is threatening the queendom. And so strikes a deal with Tasmin that if Tasmin saves her father, she will give the power of love, give her love for her father to Tasmin, which is the only way that Tasmin can love for herself, is if she takes other people's love. So that sounds really interesting and really intense, and very much not a concept I've ever come across before, so I am super intrigued by that one. Next up is The Mirror Season by Anna-Marie McLemore. This is releasing on the 16th of March and sounds so good. It follows two teens who discover they were both sexually assaulted at the same party, and they form a very cautious friendship. And then, as always with Anna-Marie McLemore, there's a lot of sort of magical goings on as well. I don't know too much more than that. I know the cover is stunning and I am obsessed with it. I've only read one Anna-Marie McLemore book before, which was Blanket Iroha, and I really, really liked it. So I am so excited to read some more, and this one just looks phenomenal. And I feel like it's going to be a lot darker than a lot of my sort of contemporary magical realism stories, but I'm really excited for that. Next up for March, there are a lot of books releasing in March. On the 23rd is Bruised by Tanya Bottajou, and this sounds so good. This is roller derby, it is sapphic, the cover looks badass, and I'm so hyped for it. I just started looking at the synopsis, and the first thing it says is Whip It. One of my favourite films. Very excited. So just reading the kind of synopsis-y blurby bit, it is Whip It meets We Are Okay, inspiring coming-of-age story about a teen girl navigating first love, identity and grief when she immerses herself in the colourful, brutal, beautiful world of roller derby. It sounds so good, and I was so excited. Apparently doing roller derby is a mixture of comfort and control for her, and it just sounds phenomenal, and I feel like it's going to be a massive found family vibe and sort of personal growth. It sounds great, we're here for it. Next up, also releasing on the 23rd of March, is by far one of the most anticipated releases of the year, and that is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. Number one, look at this cover. This isn't like normally the aesthetic I would necessarily love, but that woman looks so freaking cool, and I am so here for it. So this follows two main characters, Terrain and Luca, and Terrain is like very loyal. She was stolen as a child, but she is loyal to the people she fights for. She seems to have forgotten her loyalty to sort of her blood until she has to go back and fight in her homeland, I think. And then maybe that blood loyalty is stronger than she thought. And then Luca is a turncoat, and oh my god, there's going to be a rival, it's going to be enemies to lovers. It literally says, let me read it to you. Through assassinations and massacres in bedrooms and war rooms, Terrain and Luca haggle over the price of a nation. I am so here for political female fantasy. I'm also far too excited about the fact that like it says in war rooms and bedrooms. I want to know what that means. We're intrigued, very excited, and also loving the author on Twitter, which always makes you more excited for a book. So my first of 3 pages done. Carrying on. Next up, also on the 23rd of March, is Lost in the Neverwoods by Aidan Thomas. For anyone who doesn't know, Aidan Thomas wrote Cemetery Boys, which came out earlier this year. It's amazing, everyone loves it for a very good reason. And this is his sophomore novel, and it's a Peter Pan retelling. I think it's meant to be really dark. I'm assuming it's queer. I don't think there's any way he could write a story that isn't queer, just it would surprise me. So I am super hyped. And the cover is stunning. I'm not normally big on fairy tale retellings, but I'm gonna give this one a go because I loved the writing style in Cemetery Boys. And also, having listened to Aidan Thomas speak, he said that he actually wrote Lost in the Neverwoods first, but sold Cemetery Boys first. So I'm really intrigued to see what Lost in the Neverwoods is. So I'm definitely going to be giving it a go. And a dark retelling is more up my alley than a standard retelling. Next up, the last March release on the 30th of March is She's Too Pretty to Burn by Wendy Hurd. Wendy Hurd, that is correct. And I'm so excited for this. This is a YA thriller, which is sapphic, which sounds really interesting. I've not read a YA thriller in a long time. Certainly not one with a cover like this. They normally try so hard to be dark that it's like, you know, black and scary, but this I'm very intrigued by. Just reading again like the tagline, it says an electric romance set against a rebel art scene sparks lethal danger for two girls in this expertly plotted YA thriller. It's set in San Diego. It follows Veronica, who is bored but charismatic and uninspired, and Nico, who is insatiable, subversive, and obsessed with chaotic performance art. Artists first, best friends second. And then a new person enters Mick, and this is Veronica's like muse, it's their ideal girl, and they have this, you know, long, hot, falling in love adventure, amazing. And then it just says, 1 fire, 2 murders, 3 drowning bodies, 1 suspect, 1 stalker. This is a summer they won't survive. What? It sounds so good. And I had this before. It is inspired by Picture of Dorian Gray, which I haven't read yet, but will hopefully be reading in the near future. So yeah, so hyped. Rereading all these synopses is making me realize I want to read all 52, I think it is. I got it wrong earlier, 53, all 52 of these books. I can't, that's my goal for the whole year. But anyway, moving into April, starting off with one of my most anticipated books of the year, First Become Ashes by K.M. Sparrow. For anyone who doesn't know, K.M. Sparrow wrote Docile. I personally thought Docile was a fascinating book when I read it, but I am intrigued by First Become Ashes because I may be wrong, but I think it's a very different style to Docile. Docile was a dystopian story and really thought-provoking was the big thing and why I really liked it. It was psychologically interesting. It, as I said, massively thought-provoking. It makes you question a lot of things. I get the impression this is just really smutty fantasy. Not a bad thing, very here for it. I think there's like trolls and vampires and all sorts. I can't remember everything, but I do remember, if you want to scroll back on their Twitter, that the author put a tweet out when the book was like announced, which is basically all the like fan fiction tags that he would put on the book that they're not allowed to put in the blurb. I was just reading this list like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but I am so here for it. Just skimming through the synopsis, I think it's actually kind of an urban fantasy because they're mentioning the FBI and SWAT teams, so that sounds interesting. I'm excited. It sounds good, and it says basically someone's been through a huge amount for the past 24 years to like access their magic and has just been told by the government that magic is not real and the pain was for nothing, but he's not ready to give up. He's determined to fill the quest to defeat the monster he was promised. Along the way, he'll grapple with the past, confront love, and discover his long buried truth. I'm here for it. It sounds good. It's a pretty cover. I'm excited. Next, also releasing on the 6th of April, is The Sky Blues by Robbie Couch. This is a YA contemporary story and it sounds so interesting. And this story follows Sky, I think in small town America, and he's openly gay but wants to end out his senior year on a high note by asking out his crush to prom, and comes up with like a 30-day plan to do it, and it's all very exciting. Until his prom plan gets leaked online in a hugely homophobic way, but his friends convince him to keep going, and they actually convince him to turn the 30-day prom proposal planning into kind of discovering who sent out this reveal in this email. I'm very excited. It says, for fans of What If It's Us and I Wish You All the Best. I Wish You All the Best by Mason Diva is a phenomenal book, so I'm very excited for that comparison. We'll give it a go and see how it is. Next up on the 13th of April is Between Real and Perfect by Ray Steve. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce the surname. And oh my god, I could not be more excited for this. It sounds so good. So this follows Dean, who is a trans guy, and everyone thinks he's a lesbian, including his girlfriend, Zoe. But he has just been cast as Romeo in a non-traditional school production of Romeo and Juliet. And he's been planning to wait till college to come out. He's, you know, certain he's trans, he knows. But now with playing Romeo and feeling more himself, he's considering coming out earlier, and it sounds so good, like a journey of self-discovery and being yourself, and oh my god, it just sounds amazing. And anything with theatre in it, especially when they're doing Romeo and Juliet, I am so down for. It sounds amazing, the cover's perfect, excited. Next up, also on the 13th of April, is Victories Greater Than Death by Charlie Jane Anders. I have actually read part of one of Charlie Jane Anders' books and really enjoyed it, but it was a bit of a mind warp, so I didn't carry on with it because at the time I couldn't deal with it. But this sounds pretty interesting. It's being pitched as Star Wars meets Doctor Who, which I'm here for. It's the start of a thrilling new YA sci-fi series. It's queer, we need more queer sci-fi, we're here for it. So this follows Tina, who is a human clone of an amazing alien warlord, I think? An alien commander. And the rest of the world's deciding if aliens still exist, but she has a great crew alongside her. There's an intergalactic war, lots of great things, sounds really interesting. The cover is so interesting, so very intrigued by this one. Next up on the 20th of April is In Deeper Waters by F.T. Lukens. I'm excited for this. This has been comped to, unfortunately, The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, though I do think the only reason that comp is happening is because it's a young prince on a coming-of-age tour, which is basically the plot of Gentleman's Guide, so we're going to ignore it. It's also comped to Pirates of the Caribbean. As I said, it's male-male. It has someone on a coming-of-age tour. It's kind of got piracy, I think. It sounds really, really good. And so this follows Tal, who has been cloistered away forever in his family's castle and is keeping their forbidden magic secret. And then he finally gets to go on his tour and they discover a prisoner. I have no idea, but honestly, this sounds so interesting. The one thing I will say is I do not think it is own voices, so keep that in mind if that's something that matters to you. And then next up is The Key to You and Me by J. Robin Brown, also releasing on the 20th of April. I'm excited because it's sapphic, YA, contemporary, horse girl. I'm so here for this. I said already in this video I'm a bit of a horse girl. It's an own voices LGBT romance. Oh, I'm just so excited. So this follows Piper, who is trying to get over her ex-girlfriend and is working at a stables where like an ex-Olympic rider, I think, trains, and then her grandmother forces her to start taking driving lessons with Kat, and Kat's kind of questioning her sexuality and doesn't feel like it's something she can deal with in small town America. I'm so excited. There's gonna be horses, it's sapphic, it sounds cute, its own voices. What else do you need? And then for the final April release on the 20th of April is She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quinlan. And this is a sapphic sports romance. I'm going to repeat that in case you didn't hear me the first time. A sapphic sports romance between a cheerleader and a basketball player. I need it. I need it. It sounds amazing. It's comped to Becky Albertalli and Casey McQuiston, always solid comps. I'll read a little bit of the blurb to you. After losing spectacularly to her ex-girlfriend in their first game since their breakup, Scotty gets into a fender bender with the worst possible person, her nemesis, the incredibly beautiful and incredibly mean Irene. Things only get worse when their nosy do-gooder mums get involved and the girls are forced to carpool together until Irene's car gets out of the shop. Rivals to lovers, enemies to lovers, sports romance. Oh, I could not be more excited for this. Okay, we're gonna move on before I die of excitement for that one. Okay, apologies if the camera angle has changed slightly. My camera overheated and turned itself off. So we're gonna continue. I think we are now on to May. So first up, releasing on the 4th of May is All Kinds of Other by James C. This is a YA contemporary and it sounds phenomenal. So this book does follow two male main characters, Jules and Jack, who are both starting at a new school. Jules is trying to figure out his sexuality. He doesn't know, he thinks he might be gay. His friends have an opinion though, and his parents have an opinion. All he wants is to lay low and join the basketball team. And then there's Jack, who is following his father across the country to LA, where his father can pursue an acting career, and he just wants to leave the past behind him. He's just had a big best friend breakup, and again, just lay low and get through school. But when Jules and Jack meet, there are evidently sparks flying, and then a video surfaces linking Jack to two transgender bloggers, and people start questioning his past, and things come out that he didn't necessarily want. And the two have to decide between laying low and staying out of the spotlight or being together. It sounds really, really interesting. I don't know why, just from the way that the blurb is written, it sounds like a very hard-hitting story written in a really gentle way. It doesn't feel like it's going to be high drama or high action. It just feels like it's going to tell a really important story in a really nice way, and I'm really excited for it. Next up, also releasing on the 4th of May, though it's actually the 10th of June in the UK, is Meet Cute Diary by Emery Lee, which I'm so excited for this book. This is a super cute YA rom-com. The author has been really, really open about the fact this is not meant to be hard-hitting, this is meant to be like intense. This is just a fun book. And this does follow Noah, a trans teen who has a blog called Meet Cute Diary where he posts about really cute meet cutes for trans people. And it's a work of fiction, it's not real stories. And it started just as like his fantasies, but it's become like a beacon of hope for a lot of trans people. But it does get revealed as fiction and he has to sort of deal with the repercussions of that. And so yeah, it's him kind of battling between his ideal relationship and what he thinks romance should be, and maybe realizing that romance might be better if it goes off script. It sounds cute, it sounds amazing, I love the cover, the hype is real. Next up, releasing on the 4th of May in the US and the 6th of May in the UK, is When You Get the Chance by Robin Stevenson and Tom Ryan. I'm really excited by this. I mean, the cover has a full-out rainbow on it, so we're here. And I think it's following two teens who are cousins going to Pride together, possibly with another friend as well. I don't know details, the synopsis is very long and reveals like a lot of intricate stuff, which I think I'm going to pick up when I read the book. But obviously, as I've said before, all these books will be linked below if you want to read the synopsis in more detail. But I think it's these two cousins, they're both queer, but they discover that maybe the only thing they have in common. And I think the person who goes with them to Pride is like pining for their girlfriend back home. It sounds good, lots of queer teens, possible road trip. Sounds fun. Next up on the 9th of May is Can't Take That Away by Stephen Salvatore, and oh my god, I'm so excited. Just to read you like the first bit of the GOODREADS, it says, an empowering and emotional debut about a genderqueer teen who finds the courage to stand up and speak out for equality when they are discriminated against by their high school administration. It shouldn't ever be necessary for teens to have to stand up to their administration about their identity, but nonetheless, we love seeing badass teens stand up for themselves, especially against stupid institutions that don't allow them to be themselves. So very here for this. Again, the cover is absolutely beautiful. Very intrigued by the microphone as it does follow Carrie, who dreams of being a diva and bringing the house down. They can hit every note from top pop to Broadway hits. So excited. Can't wait. Dealing with trauma, meets a singer guitarist. It just sounds amazing. Another detail I've just seen in the sort of blurb section, which sounds amazing, is that it's told in alternating chapters with identifying pronouns, which I really love. Like, why? What? That's so freaking cool. Love it. Can't wait. And then next on the 11th of May is Cool for the Summer by Dahlia Adler, which I'm pretty sure has a bi female main character, which I am super excited about, and it's following her, and I think she's always been obsessed with this one guy, determined to get with him. But she's slightly haunted by an interaction she's had with a woman before, I think. Yeah, haunted by a memory of a confusing, romantic, strangely perfect summer spent with a girl named Jasmine. This sounds so good. Tight-knit group of friends, a job that borders on cool, and chase the boy of her literal dreams. But she's finally got the guy. Why can't she stop thinking about the girl? It's a journey of self-discovery, new love. It sounds great. YA contemporary again, I'm pretty sure. Next up on the 15th of May is Heartstopper 4 by Alice Oseman. I have read the first 3 volumes of Heartstopper. This is a graphic novel by Alice Oseman following Nick and Charlie, who are 2 boys at a British high school or secondary school, and they fall for each other. And Charlie is openly out as gay, and Nick didn't realise he was bi, but by this point in the series he is aware of that. It's adorable, I love it. It's one of the sweetest graphic novels. It is actually available for free on like Webtoon and Tapas, but I tend to wait for the bind up printed volumes to come out and then read them. I find it a bit easier. It's amazing, love Alice Oseman. I don't need to say more. Heartstopper's phenomenal, can't wait for the next volume. Okay, we're now moving on to the 18th of May, and the next 4 books I'm talking about are all releasing on the 18th of May, and the next 2 are 2 of my most anticipated releases of the whole year. The first being Some Girls Do by Jennifer Duggan. Jennifer Duggan is the author of Hot Dog Girl and Verona Comics, 2 of my favourite YA contemporary books. I absolutely adore them so much, both featuring bi-main characters, which we're here for, and this one does the same. This is a YA contemporary romance which follows an openly gay track star falling for a closeted bisexual teen beauty queen with a penchant for fixing up old cars. I'm so excited. I don't need to know more than that. I love Jennifer Duggan's books so much. They are so interesting. I don't know if this will follow the same vein as the first 2, but the first 2 both had kind of awful main characters. I mean, that's probably a bit strong, but that was my favourite aspect, is that they're not these perfect people who treat people perfectly and act perfectly. Like, they're messy teenagers. Teenagers are an absolute nightmare. And so I love seeing that realistically depicted. So I'm very, very excited and very optimistic that this is going to be another absolute hit for me, because it's more Jennifer Duggan. And then on to another huge anticipated release, and that is In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland. I'm so hyped. We're gonna do some like reading summaries on Goodreads because they do it perfectly in one line, but God am I excited. Here we go, this is the line I wanted to read. A pansexual blood mage reluctantly teams up with an undead spirit to start a rebellion among the living and the dead. What? It sounds so good. We have blood magic, we have undead spirits, and oh my god, and in terms of rep in this, so much. We have a blood mage who's pan, a lesbian love interest, an NB and ace best friend, and a male-female-female poly relationship. And that was very usefully summed up by Teresa on Goodreads. It sounds so phenomenal. The queerest fantasy I think I've ever heard of, with one of the most stunning covers I've ever seen. The excitement is real, I can't wait. I will be talking about this book obsessively until I read it, and probably for many months after. So be prepared for me to not shut up about this book for the whole of 2021. Next up, also on the 18th of May, we have a contemporary YA debut, which is May the Best Man Win by Z.R. Elor. I'm so excited. This has got a trans main character. It says, a trans boy enters a throwdown battle for the title of Homecoming King with the boy he dumped last summer in Z.R. Elor's contemporary YA debut. So excited. It follows Jeremy, who is cheer captain, student body president, and won't let coming out as a transgender boy ruin his senior year. Down for that. And then we have Lucas, who is a football star and head of the homecoming committee, who is just trying to find order in his life after his older brother's funeral and loss of long-term girlfriend. Okay. I was really confused then, because it said long-term boyfriend who turned out to be a boy. So that will be Jeremy, the other male protagonist we're following. I'm so excited. Oh my god, there's a sabotage plot. Rivalry taken too far. This is going to be so funny, and I'm so excited. And then for the final of the 18th of May releases, we have It Goes Like This by Neil Moreland. I'm so hyped. Okay, so this follows 4 characters, Eva, Celeste, Gina, and Steph, and they've been through a lot together. They think their friendship is unbreakable, especially after the rise of Moonlight Overthrow, the world-famous queer pop band they formed in middle school, never thinking they'd headline anything bigger than a county fair. Oh my god. So then there's a big falling out, someone else steps into the spotlight, someone takes a step back and starts being a fangirl of their own band. It sounds messy. I'm kind of here for it. I'm really excited. Again, anything with like a really strong group of queer characters in the center is amazing. Obviously, it is fantastic when you have a story with even one queer character, but I love when you get a big group of them all interacting. It's just really nice to see. Okay, so now we are moving into June, which is the last month where I have a lot, and then I just have a couple for the rest of the year after that. But I do have 10 books to talk about in June. The first of which is releasing on the 1st of June, along with 5 other titles. June 1st is going to be a big day for queer 2021 releases. But we are starting off with, again, one of my most anticipated books of the year, One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I can't believe how excited I am for this. I loved Red, White and Royal Blue. I know not everyone does. I personally really enjoyed it. But this follows a sapphic relationship, and I know it has some sort of time travel on a train, maybe? I don't know that much about it. Let's look it up. Basically, I heard it's Casey McQuiston and I heard that everyone liked it, so I got excited. So this follows a cynical 23-year-old August who is moving to New York City and proving her right that things like magic and cinematic love stories don't exist, and the only smart way to go through life is alone. Wow, okay, August sounds amazing. But then there's this gorgeous girl on the train, Jane. Dazzling, charming, mysterious, impossible Jane. Jane with her rough edges and swoopy hair and soft smile, showing up in a leather jacket to save August's day when she most needed it. And then a subway crash becomes the best part of August's day. But she discovers a problem. Jane doesn't look like an old school punk rocker, she is one. She is displaced from 1970. And I don't really know what happens past that, but damn is it exciting. I think, been approved for an arc of this. I will be getting it in the new year, so I am so excited to read this one and hype it up for many months until it comes out. Next up, again on the 1st of June, though actually the 8th of July in the UK, is Jay's Gay Agenda by Jason June. I find it so satisfying, the number of J sounds in that title and author. I don't know why, it makes me happy. But anyway, this has the most gorgeous cover. This is a YA rom-com, I think. Okay, so this is the first paragraph on Goodreads, sounds super cute, so I'm just gonna read it, and that's: there's one thing Jay Collier knows for sure. He's a statistical anomaly as the only out gay kid in his small rural Washington town. While all his friends can't stop talking about their heterosexual hookups and relationships, Jay can only dream of his own firsts, compiling a romance to-do list of all the things he hopes to one day experience. His gay agenda. Anyone that calls me a gay agenda in like a nice way makes me so happy. It's just hilarious. But I am so excited about this. It says at the bottom, from debut novelist Jason June comes a moving and hilarious sex-positive story about the complexities of first love, first hookups, and first heartbreaks. I'm so excited. As I already said, the cover is beyond stunning and makes me even more excited, and oh my god, I just can't wait. I also love sex-positive YA stories. We need more of them. Can we stop assuming teenagers don't have sex and just ignoring it? Sex-positive stories, thank you. Next up, shock horror, still on the 1st of June, is The Chosen and the Beautiful by Yi Vo, who is the author of Empress and Sultan Fortune, which is a book a lot of people have been enjoying this year. So this follows Jordan Baker, who is growing up in 1920s America society. She's money, education, invitations to exclusive parties, but she's also queer, Asian, adopted, and treated as an exotic attraction by her peers. I am so excited for this. I feel like this is again going to be a perspective I've not seen before and not read from before, and it makes me so excited. I love the cover. It's so like dainty and elegant and very 1920s. Super excited for this one. Sorry again if there is a camera angle change. I've been filming this video for a very long time. We are onto my 3rd camera battery. We will see if this one lasts me to the end of filming. I hope so, because it's my last battery. Okay, the next 1st of June release I'll be talking about is The Unpopular Vote by Jasper Sanchez. This sounds so cool. This follows Mark, I think. Everything Mark has learned about politics he's learned from his father, who is a congressman, but to protect his father's image he's kind of masquerading as a cis guy and, you know, trying to just let himself seem as everyone assumes he is. But when a manipulatively charming candidate for student body president is pushing the harmful rhetoric, Mark decides to abandon his low profile and run against him, I think. It sounds good. It sounds like it's going to be full of tension. It reminds me of The Politician on Netflix, which is a show I really enjoyed, so here for it. Excited. Next up is The Ghosts We Keep by Mason Diva. Again, on the 1st of June is when this is being released, and I'm really excited. As I've already mentioned in this video, I loved I Wish You All the Best by Mason Diva. It was a really, really interesting story, and I'm so excited to read more of their work. So this follows Liam Cooper, whose older brother dies in a hit and run, and he's obviously struggling with grief and also struggling with a significant distancing between him and some of his friends. But then he actually makes friends with one of his older brother's friends, and they kind of, I think, work through the grief together. They found the one other person who can fully understand how they're feeling. And it sounds really good. I know it will break me. I'm fully anticipating that, but it sounds like a fascinating story and a really hard-hitting story about grief. The cover is stunning. I am really intrigued to read this one. Next up is The Girl from the Sea by Molly Knox Ostertag, also releasing on the 1st of June. I think this is actually a graphic novel. I think it's sapphic. 15-year-old Morgan has a secret. She can't wait to escape the perfect little island where she lives. She's desperate to finish high school and escape her sad divorced mum, her volatile little brother, and worst of all, her great group of friends who don't understand Morgan at all. And then Morgan is saved one night from drowning by a mysterious girl named Kelty, and the two become friends, and something life on the island doesn't seem so stifling. I'm really intrigued. No idea what to expect, but we like, you know, some graphic novels mixed in, mix it up a little bit. And the cover is stunning, so I'm sure the artwork inside will be stunning, and sapphic YA graphic novel. Never gonna complain about that. Next up is The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri, and this is an adult female-female fantasy book, and I think it's the start of a new trilogy, and I'm beyond hyped. This is apparently set in a world inspired by the history and epics of India, in which a captive princess and a maidservant in possession of forbidden magic become unlikely allies on a dark journey to save their empire from the princess's traitor brother. I'm not reading more than that. That is all I need to know. That sounds amazing. I've heard amazing things about Tasha Suri's book, The Empire of Sand and Realm of Ash, I think, and they sound amazing. I want to read those anyway, but yeah, sapphic fantasy romance, we're here for it, especially when it sounds like there's, you know, deceit and betrayal and, you know, maidservant and stuff. It sounds great, very excited for it. Also, I apologise the number of times I've said excited in this video. I've been filming for almost 2 hours now and my vocabulary is dying very quickly and I'm running out of words, so we're just going to be excited for everything from here on out. And The Jasmine Throne is releasing on the 8th of June in the US and the 10th of June in the UK. But then also on the 8th of June, we have Girls at the Edge of the World by Laura Brooke Robson. I'm hyped for this. It says, set in a world on the edge of an apocryphal flood, we're going with that. This heart-stoppingly romantic fantasy debut is perfect for fans of Rachel Hartman and Ray Carson. I've not read either of those authors, but if you say heart-stoppingly romantic fantasy debut, I am here. And it's a world bound for an epic flood. Only a chosen few are guaranteed safe passage. The royal court will be saved along with their guards, but the fate of the royal flyers is less certain. But the principal flyer is hellbent on survival and will do anything to save the flyers, even if anything it means moulding herself into the type of girl who'd be courted by Prince Nikolai. But unbeknownst to Natasha, her newest recruit is driven less by her desire to survive the floods than her thirst for revenge. That sounds interesting. The cover for this isn't really the kind of aesthetic I normally like, but nonetheless I'm really excited. It's giving me Girls of Paper and Fire vibes, just the cover, though I've not actually read that book, but I know a lot of people love it. I'm excited. Using that word again, it sounds really good, it sounds really interesting. We need more sapphic sci-fi fantasy, so it's a good thing. Next up on the 22nd of June is The All-Consuming World by Cassandra Core, which sounds so interesting. Just to read again the first bit of the synopsis, it says, a diverse team of broken, diminished former criminals get back together to solve the mystery of their last disastrous mission and to rescue a missing, much-changed comrade. But they're not the only ones in pursuit of the secret at the heart of the planet. I'm not going to try and pronounce that planet name, it's not going to go well, but apparently it's a debut novel with page-turning exploration of humans and machines that is perfect for readers of Anne Leckie, Ursula Le Guin and Cameron Hurley. Not read any of those authors yet, but I'm reading an Anne Leckie book this month. But I am so excited for this. I don't know too much about it, but something about the cover and just, I can't explain it. It's just giving me a vibe that makes me want to read it, and sometimes a vibe is enough for me, so we're going with it. And then next on the 29th of June, and the last of the June books, is Gear Breakers by Zoe Hanamikuta. This is a debut, it is sapphic, and I'm going to read you actually all the bullet points the author has on their Twitter for this book, because that is what got me so excited for it. It says, mecha deities, found family, Korean rep, a crew of dumbass, big-hearted renegade kids, cyborg girls in leather jackets, cyberpunk sapphics tattooing each other as a form of affection. Oh, I'm so excited. So yeah, this is, you can see from the cover, it looks sort of like sci-fi. I don't actually know what this is. It says for fans of Red Rising though, which is a series I'm reading this year and really expecting to love, so it sounds good. They're in the shadow of a tyrannical rule with giant mechanized weapons, there's war and oppression, and then Eris is a gearbreaker, a brash young rebel who specializes in taking down these mechanized weapons from the inside. But a mission goes awry, she finds herself in the prison and meets Sona, a cybernetically enhanced wind-up pilot. I'm so excited for this one. The cover is one of the most stunning things I've ever seen. I honestly could just stare at it for days. This sounds phenomenal. It's sapphic. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's fantasy, sci-fi, dystopian, but it's that mechanical element of it that for some reason has me so interested. It's certainly piqued my engineering brain a little bit. And then moving on to July. First off, we have on the 13th of July, Flashfire by TJ Klune. This is the sequel to The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune, which is one of my favourite books that I read in 2020. And it's set in an alternate New York where there are superheroes and you follow this main character who is obsessed with these superheroes and writing fan fiction about being in love with one of these superheroes. And it's LGBT, so many of the characters in this have different representation. TJ Klune himself is gay, I think, so there is definitely own voices male rep in here. The Extraordinaries was one of the funniest, most light-hearted books I've read this year, whilst also dealing with some really great issues, and I just had the best time reading it, so cannot wait to read the sequel in 2021. And then next up, releasing on the 20th of July, though the 22nd in the UK, is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan, which is a tour publication. It's the start of a series, and it's being comped as Mulan meets Song of Achilles, so I'm guessing it's basically a queer retelling of like an old Chinese myth or something, if I'm putting that together correctly. Nonetheless, vibes of those two things together, spot on. It says, a bold, queer and lyrical reimagining of the rise of the founding emperor of the Ming Dynasty from an amazing new voice in literary fantasy. So yeah, I'm just so hyped. The cover, both the UK and US cover, are stunning for this. I cannot wait. I don't want to read more, I want to go in blind, but it sounds amazing. And then moving on to August, on August 3rd, sorry I keep looking down at my list, my brain is giving up by this point, but on August 3rd, it coming out is A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. I love Victoria Lee. I read The Fever King by her and it was phenomenal, and I cannot wait to read more books. And this says for fans of Wilder Girls and Knife House, it's a dark, twisty, atmospheric thriller about a boarding school haunted by its history of witchcraft and two girls dangerously close to digging up the past. Do we need to know more? I don't think we do. It's dark academia, it's thrilling, the cover is stunning. I just know the vibes of this book are going to be immaculate and I cannot wait at all. Like, wait until August might be the death of me. It's currently undetermined as to what will kill me in 2021, but I think it's a very good chance that it's going to be waiting for this book that will do it. And then moving into September, on September 21st is releasing Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. I've already mentioned TJ Klune once in this video, literally about 5 minutes ago, and I loved another one of his books this year, The House in Cerulean Sea, and I think this one's going to have a more similar vibe to that, though much sadder. And just to read like the one-liner, it says, Under the Whispering Door is a contemporary fantasy with TJ Klune's signature quirk and charm about a ghost who refuses to cross over and the ferryman he falls in love with. It's heartwarming and heartbreaking. This absorbing tale of grief and hope is told with TJ Klune's signature warmth, humour and extraordinary empathy. I don't know much about the plot. I think it's ghosts in a tea shop is how TJ Klune first described it, but I've seen him talk about this book and sort of say how hard it was for him to write and how proud he is of it, so I'm incredibly excited to get to it and really cannot wait for its release in September. For some reason I thought it was coming out in March, so when I found out it's September, it kind of broke my heart just a little bit. And then the final book I'm going to be talking about, thank God, and I think I only actually have 50 books on this list because I'm stupid and got my main anticipated list and my LGBT anticipated list mixed up, and I found 2 books or 3 books in this list throughout filming that aren't LGBT, and I just mindlessly, when getting this list together at 4 AM last night, I had put on here, so apologies for my number being wrong at the beginning. But the final book, releasing on the 9th of November, so really looking ahead into 2021, is All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. Amanda Foody is the author of the Ace of Shades trilogy, which I really want to read, and Christine Lynn Herman is the author of the Devouring Grey duology, which I have read and did enjoy, and both of those series are very queer. This is going to be very queer. It's villains. I don't think there's even a blurb out yet, but I know it features a lot of villains, so I'm very, very excited. Okay, I think that is it. I'm hoping this edits together pretty well because it's taken me a long time to film, and apologies if this video is really long. It might be. I tried my best. But that is it. I hope you got some good LGBT recs off this list, but as I've said, if you do want the full list, it is linked on a Goodreads shelf in the description, so you can check that out. So many amazing LGBT books coming out in 2021. This isn't even a fraction of the ones being released. This is just like a really, really small amount of them that I really want to get to, and I thought you guys might like the sound of. So check them out, let me know if there's any others I haven't mentioned that you guys are excited for. I am always looking for more recommendations. But that's it for the video, so if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to see more content from me. All my other social medias, as well as links to the book clubs and read-alongs I host, are linked down below in the description, as they always are, if you want to either connect with me or take part in any of those, so you can check that out. But that's it, so bye, and I'll see you in the next one.